So today I'm joined by Neil Chase of Federated Media, and we're going to dive right in. So I'm wondering, Neil, if you could set the stage by sharing a bit about the current state of the online ad business.
Yeah, the state of the online ad business, it's moving so fast that we spend a lot of our time just figuring out what's new, what's next. The big win for FM is when one of our agency partners comes to us and says, we just heard about this new thing. What do you guys know about it? And we usually do, because we're on top of things. We're trying to bring people the newest kind of opportunities. So, very early selling things related to Facebook and related to Twitter and other kinds of products that people are using.
So how do you decide which brands and bloggers should connect up and work on a project together? And then how do you go about making sure that happens?
It's really much more about the specific site. So we'll take a marketer's need, a campaign, a product they have coming out, and we'll say, for this, here's some sites of ours from our group of 100 or 200 sites that are really good fits for this. And this particular site is great. Look at the engagement when this person does this. Look how many people are relying on this site for this kind of information. Look how many questions or comments or entries or other kinds of metrics, how much stuff is cut and pasted from this site to somewhere else. Really trying to tell the story about the engagement of a site. So that you can get numbers a lot of places. You can buy a billboard on the freeway and get numbers of eyeballs going by. But to really get engagement, people who are on a site because they have a deep relationship with the author of that site, they're there because of the content, they're there because of the topics that are covered, they're there because of the other people in the community. That's where you get the real story of this site being a really good fit for your message, your product, your campaign.
Federated Media is this very exclusive network. They don't add very many people. So if you could lift the veil a little bit, let us know what it is you're looking for when considering adding blogs.
Well, exclusive is a nice word to use for us. I've heard exclusive, I've heard uppity, I've heard elitist, I've heard snobby. Because we're not an ad network, because we don't have a huge volume of advertising, sitting in the machine ready to go as soon as somebody walks in, we don't add a lot of sites, and when we do add them, we add a small number in a category that's selling particularly well. So FM started with one site, Boing Boing, where the 4 Boing Boing editors had worked with John Battelle at Wired Magazine. John saw what they were doing, they asked for some help building a business model for it, and he figured out pretty quickly that as one site they would get some interest from some marketers, but if you had 100 Boing Boings, not 1,000, not 1,000,000, but if you had 100 of the best independent producers of media out there, the best independent media companies who were doing really interesting things, had much more engagement than your average online interaction would have, you could build something pretty special. When we add sites, it's because we're doing well in a particular content category where we need more. If things are selling really well in a certain category, we will go look at all the sites that we've talked to, the folks who've applied to us, find the ones that might be the best fits, and reach out and say, hey, we think we can take you on now without taking you on and having nothing for you, without you coming in and saying, hey, where's the ads, without hurting our existing partners, and with a logical thought that our sales are growing at this rate, so we ought to be able to grow the number of impressions we have at this rate, or the number of authors we have who can work on especially creative programs. But to just build for scale without keeping a close eye on quality and on quantity, how much we're selling, we would end up with a large network of very disappointed people, and that's not good for anybody.
So imagine for a moment that you're a brand new blogger, you've heard about all these different monetization models. What would you be considering and thinking about?
A lot of people talk about advertising, but when you first start a site, there are a number of ways to make money that may or may not involve display ads. There are other models that people often miss. One of them is sponsorships. When you start your site, as you start to write more and more and you start to get noticed, you'll hear from people in the business. Somebody will write to you and say, I represent such and such a company, I see you're writing about these kind of products. Wow, we really ought to work together. Here's a press release about our products. Would you like to know more? If you go through your email box, you'll probably find a bunch of people who've reached out to you. They may not have money to do a huge ad campaign, but they may very well be willing to sponsor your site for $50 or $100 a month. Have a badge on the site, have you appear in some of their promotions, have you do an offline in-person event with them, maybe even go in and consult and give them some ideas. There are people who will pay if it's a relevant site. It doesn't matter about the traffic. If you've got a relevant site with a relevant discussion, go to the people who want to be part of that discussion and say, hey, how can we be friends? How can we work together? How can I help you? And that's often the way that you find, somebody who wants to be your sponsor, give you something, give you some money, help you run the company, the site, much more effectively than getting a couple of ads at a relatively low CPM for a small site.
It seems in the current model, Federated Media kind of gets to play both sides of the fence. They represent both the bloggers and the brands in negotiations. Do you think that that's going to change at some point? There will be a third party that steps in to represent bloggers, or do you not really think that that's necessary?
The idea behind something like FM is, we are the business partner to a lot of our authors, and our partners range from the individual person who's blogging on the side who has a day job, to somebody for whom the blogging works so well they end up quitting their day job and doing it full time. Then their spouse or partner was able to quit and work on the business full time, and then one day you get a note from their new assistant because they just hired an intern who's scheduling their meetings for them, which is so cute. And it's really fun to see people grow that way. We also have partners who are, a big operation in Chelsea in New York that has 15 or 20 people writing for a site now that is, has huge traffic and is making good money. So our partners all have different needs, but for some of them we are strictly the vendor of ad impressions. For some of them we are the business partner who's helping them kind of build a business plan and figure out where to go next. We definitely represent both. We spend a lot of time with the marketers and the agencies making sure they get what they need. We also spend a lot of time making sure it's the right fit for the authors. We won't bring you a brand that you tell us you don't want, because that's not a good fit, and you're actually protecting both the blogger and the marketer when you do that. And if you do this right, if you put the right people together, it's a win for both. So the main thing that you have to protect an author from, or sort of support them on, is the tough part of negotiating in the media business, which is what our salespeople do for a living. And then the kind of thing where somebody comes to you and says, boy, I'd really love you to do this, and you're kind of tempted to do it because there's good money in it, but it really isn't what you do. It's not going to feel authentic to your readers. It's not going to feel good to you. You want to take a shower after having a meeting like that. We try to stay away from that kind of stuff. We try to help you figure out what's appropriate for your site. There'll be campaigns where an author says, yes, I'd be willing to do that, and we say, well, think about this. What if it looks like this? Do we really want to do this together? And the answer is no, let's change it. Let's take another approach so it works best for everybody. So I don't think you have to represent only one or the other side. It's by bringing the two together and taking good care of both that I think we